Welcome to By-The-Bywater, a podcast on the Megaphonic Network. I'm Ned Raggett.
I'm Oriana Schwint.
I'm Jared Pekachek.
And we're here to talk about all things J.R.R. Tolkien, his work, his inspirations and impact, creative interpretations in other media, languages, lore, rip-offs, parodies, anything we think is interesting. Thanks for joining us. Hello and welcome to the 86th episode of By-The-Bywater. It is great to be back with you all, and indeed Jared is back with us, for he has been on a trip to foreign lands and things like that, and more or less just got back, literally showering it off you. So what happened here? What'd you do?
Oh, I went to an exotic and foreign land full of arcane customs.
And what land is that?
And primitive rituals. Well, I was in London.
Very arcane.
Yeah, no, I took my mom as her Christmas present.
Hey.
Because the family chipped in, pooled our resources in 2020 to send mom to London. And then that happened. That was March. Obviously, we couldn't go. 6 years later, I was like, you know what? It's time. We're going. So,
yay.
Yeah, her lifelong dream of hers to go to Europe or the UK, and now she's been to one.
All right. No, that was my similarly with my mom when she had a chance to go in 91. She was over the moon, things like that. So, and well, I hope she had a great time. So
she did, and so did I, which is not the most important thing, but like it's been a stressful few years. It was nice to be away. I am wearing my Tower of London hoodie that I got.
Everything is branded these days.
Tower of London is I've never been before. I've been to London a few times. I'd never been to the Tower. I didn't realize it's very Disneyland, except that the castle is real. They have like 6 gift shops, I love gift shops. There was like one dedicated to the Ravens, like solely.
Oh, yeah.
There was like a jewel house gift shop and everything. There was a gift shop in the torture chamber. Like, hell yeah. They had an Anne Boleyn section where you could get like an ornament that said, well-behaved women rarely make history, which is like, if I were an executed Tudor queen, I would find my death all worthwhile if somebody put like vaguely problematic pop feminist slogans on things dedicated to me.
If they full on had like, the soundtrack to original cast recording of 6 or something like that, then I suppose that would, be the...
they must have tried.
Yeah.
They must have tried to get the licensing or whatever. Anyway, it was a great time. And I got back yesterday, and I am still a little
at least you're not leading the episode.
I know.
If you zone, we'll cover. Don't worry about it.
Oh no, Jared's asleep.
But while we're talking about other things, while we still have you in somewhat coherent form, the Ursula K. Le Guin podcast. Could you tell us a little more about that? That's coming up.
Yeah, I was asked to take part in a podcast that is literally just a bunch of authors, other creatives, reading Ursula K. Le Guin's blog posts in chronological order. My episode won't be out until October, but it has started. It launched a couple of weeks ago. It's called In Your Spare Time. The first episode is recorded by David Mitchell, who wrote Cloud Atlas and the Bone Clocks. So I looked at the lineup and it's like, oh my God, what am I doing with these people? Who am I? It's really cool. It's a really great project. I'm excited for people to listen to it.
Yeah, that sounds great. I may have to get my subscription going myself here. I really should. And speaking of Le Guin, I will say that I mentioned both her and Mervyn Peake in an episode of something that by the time this comes out will have been out for a week and a half already. But you need to subscribe to their Patreon for it. My friends Ben and Mike, who run the Eurowhat podcast, which is all about Eurovision. This year, not directly covering Eurovision for reasons, which some of you might guess, but looking more into sort of backstory and history for their Patreon-only episodes, which look at more distaff stuff. My friend Maura Johnston and I were invited on to talk about the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame and its most recent electoral class and all that. So if you want to hear me talking about music for an hour with some friends, that's where to find that. Again, Patreon only, although we'll go live live on the main feed sometime later in the year. And you'll find out how Ursula K. and Mervyn Peake did both come up in a very logical sense, believe it or not. And let's see. And Oriana, you mentioned the documentary project you've been working on last time. That's about to start happening for you in a couple of weeks. Is that right?
We actually ended up starting production last Saturday. We very suddenly got an opportunity to shoot at Low Cinema here in Ridgewood, New York. It's co-owned by John Wilson, who did the How To with John Wilson on HBO. It's great. The theater is great. We didn't actually get to see the movie, but there is a indie movie based on Julian of Norwich's Revelations of Divine Love.
Really? Shot
in New York for $100,000. What I have seen of the movie is really cool. And so we got to talk to the filmmaker, Caroline Gollum, but it's Golum. And she was great. We talked to her producer, Kate Stahl, as well. So that's going well. Sight Unseen, the horror movie that my husband Steve and I made, is coming out May 19th on digital. It's you have to either rent it or buy it. But then around August, it'll be available for free with ads. So if you want to wait, that's totally fine.
All right. Cool. All right. Well, speaking of Gollum, in this case with two L's, we have a news section this time. Oh, boy, did we ever. Certain news dropped shortly after we recorded our last episode, but before it actually came out. And now it's all piled up in a heap, and we're looking at it. So, Jared, please talk us through it.
Would it be gauche to mention the Astounding Award thing in this section, or is that...
No, I think you should.
Yeah.
In the news? Or
yeah.
Wait, hold on. Is this your personal news, or did I miss something? I'm sorry.
Did I not tell you? Okay, yeah, no. Second nomination for the Astounding Award at Worldcon this year.
Yay!
My second year of eligibility after this, it's only going to be the Hugos, and they're announcing it on the 21st. So I can't talk about it publicly yet, but because this won't be out until.
With that,
I could have sworn we talked about this, but maybe I'm just hallucinating.
I remember it. I do recall you saying something about it.
Yeah, that's right. You did say something.
Okay.
This was it was almost like maybe side chess. I'm sorry, folks. Depending on whether we keep this in or not, we'll figure it out. So, but let's get to it. I sort of set it up. Let's tee it up again. We got news. Jared, floor is yours.
Say when it rains, it pours, and we have further word on not one but two of Warner Brothers' next planned Tolkien films now. But before we get into our actual thoughts on all this, we better lay out the details. First, the surprise news is that the until now only hinted at next film coming along is going to be written by Stephen Colbert, arguably America's most famous Tolkien fan as such, and definitely the most well-connected when it comes to the entire Peter Jackson overseen enterprise, in collaboration with his son Peter McGee, entitled The Lord of the Rings: Shadows of the Past. The idea is supposed to be that Sam, Pippin, and Merry retrace their initial journey 14 years after Frodo's departure, while Sam's daughter Eleanor discovers some sort of secret about all this. We're assuming that this means we're getting Tom Bombadil somehow and not, say, cotillions, but I guess we'll all find out together. Meantime, a formal cast list has been announced for The Lord of the Rings: The Hunt for Gollum. Besides the more or less previously confirmed Ian McKellen, Elijah Wood, and of course Andy Serkis, Lee Pace is returning as Thranduil, while Irish actor Jamie Dornan will be playing, Aragorn this time out. British actor Leo Woodall is playing one of two invented for the film parts as Halvard. Sorry. Between this and the Rings of Power, I need people to stop inventing names for Tolkien properties. Anyway, we're about to get to another one. Kate Winslet has indeed been confirmed as being part of the cast, playing the other new character, Marigal, which you'll notice is Marigold without a D. And we've all been wondering about that a lot.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that that's them interpreting Gaul as a family name suffix type thing. Like trying to do Frodo, son of Drogo, that. Yeah. It's not. I don't know.
It's like Tolkien came up with, I need to give a backstory, Smeagol and Deagle, and he didn't think anything more about it. And now here we are decades later going like, we know what this means. And that's what we're now facing. It's like, oops.
I'm placing bets now. This is Smeagol's dead wife or love interest or something.
It's got to be grandma.
His hot young grandmother.
Grandma.
Yeah. But Kate Winslet is
Kate Winslet's not
well,
a grandma,
they're gonna
but
avatar her, like.
Yeah.
So she can be kind of withered. I would love if they did like a Yoda puppet of Kate Winslet.
Oh, I just remembered they did this with Lupita Nyong'o in the
Force Awakens.
Star Wars trilogy.
Yeah.
They just made her a little orange Yoda.
Yeah.
But still,
yeah. I mean, yeah. Who knows? For by the way, in case you're wondering anyone wondering what they mentioned of the grandma bit is that we know Smeagol has a grandma because it is referenced specifically in The Hobbit, and specifically there is the fact that that Smeagol in his earlier days, or Gollum in his earlier days, going by The Hobbit, taught his grandmother to suck eggs, which means that of course she will die while sucking an egg, and that will lead to trauma, and that's why Smeagol went bad. I hope this is the case.
Well, no, because we know from Lord of the Rings that she was alive because she kicked him out of her house after he got the ring.
That's true. Yes. Okay. All right. So yeah, we don't have to fear that then. So, but yeah. So we'll see. Yeah. I mean, this is all franchise extension management gone nuts. It's all just what it is.
I know that there's a lot of people who are like, well, it's not just a business decision. Like Stephen Colbert is the super Tolkien fan. So
it's a dream come true for him.
He, how can anyone be against a super fan getting their wish? And it's like, well, Stephen Colbert is fine.
Oh, watch me.
He has a mansion in Montclair. I have nothing against Stephen Colbert. He is a fellow Northwestern alum. And,
he seems like a lovely person.
Yeah. I bet if we met, we would have a whole bunch to talk about and it would be great. But I just really, can we please just have something different? Something different, please.
Yeah, I categorically reject, I suppose, the idea that just because you're a super fan, you should be allowed to work on something.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like, oh, you've earned it merely by being a fan. Like, what do you mean? What are you talking about?
I think it's probably good if you're working on something to be a fan of it. I don't think that is a qualification.
Yeah.
And from what I've heard of the movie he's writing, that sounds terrible to me. And maybe I'll be, some things sound terrible on paper and they're great in practice.
Totally.
I don't want to get too judgmental too soon. Just a sort of even, like, lukewarm judgmental about everything. But
the thing it reminds me most of is the fact that about a decade after the BBC radio production, Brian Sibley went back and did a series of short adaptations of most of the shorter works of Tolkien for radio called Tales from the Perilous Realm. And he also included a Lord of the Rings section, specifically looking at the Old Forest, Tom Bombadil, etc., because that was not in the radio production. So it's basically, in a weird way, this kind of going back type thing has a strange kind of precedent. And really, I mean, if this had been announced out of nowhere, that'd be one thing. And again, I don't blame people if they don't remember this, especially as it involves the Hobbit films. I really don't blame anyone. But the fandom and connection already make close enough the fact that Colbert has a wordless cameo as one of the Lake Town series of spies in the second Hobbit film, and his kids were there at the time too. And there's behind the scenes stuff of all this. So he and Jackson's appeared as a Colbert interviewee, etc., back and forth. This has been long established. This is not anything new. It's sort of one of those things like, okay, they were already talking. It's not completely out of the blue. So it's not surprising. At the same time, it's not that inspiring, I guess, is what it boils down to. Not the least.
At this point, I would only be excited by something that has absolutely no connection to Peter Jackson.
Yeah.
Or to the production team that worked on it. Like, War of the Rohirrim didn't have a ton of connection to Peter Jackson. But like John Howe was working on it. There were Philippa Boyan's daughter, and I'm trying to remember the creative team. But there was a lot of overlap, and I'm just like, I need a new vision. If we must keep doing Middle Earth movies, games, whatever, I need to see something new.
And the Rings of Power does not count.
The Rings of Power does not count because it is.
It's not new.
It's in thrall.
Yeah.
And then there's Jamie Dornan as the new Aragorn.
Oh.
And
Am I the only person who's fine with that?
No, I mean, you are. You might be.
I think it's fine.
My mom was fine with it. Hilariously, I found out earlier today she was totally fine with it. So there's at least two.
I need to see proof that he can look like somebody who's never seen an iPhone.
I think we can.
Seen that proof so far.
I think we can. I think they can manage. I think they can.
I don't have anything against him.
well, what's funny is, like, I don't have any, like, special attachment to him. So, like, but
there you go.
Yeah, I guess it's just like, what is nice is, well, we can't ignore stuff because we have this podcast. So we will end up having to see, like, all of these movies and stuff. But I take comfort in, like, if I don't want to, like, really, really engage with it, I don't necessarily have to, like, okay.
Nope.
All right. Yeah. You're just going to do your IP management, and that's just how it's going to go.
Yeah.
Although who knows with the paramount of it all, like, that's a whole other thing that is going to play out over the next few years. Who even knows?
Weird times. What fun. Yeah. So let's go. Yeah, let's take that as a launching point, and let's talk about some idiots.
Yeah.
It's one way to do it. So, Oriana, the choice of topic was yours. Take the floor.
Yeah, this might end up being too much for one episode. I probably should have only picked Fëanor and not his shithead sons. And I apologize for the language, but I feel like there's just no other way to describe these guys. Just to introduce everyone. I want us all to kind of be on the same page, listeners. So Fëanor and his shithead sons, Maithros, Maglor, Celegorm, Curufin, Caranthir, Amrod, and Amras. You do not need to remember all of these names. It's okay. We only hear about one of these guys having a kid, I believe. And it's Curufin, and the child is Celebrimbor, who creates the rings of power that are not evil. And it seems like the line of Fëanor ends with him. But what's kind of funny about Fëanor is he's only mentioned, like, in passing in The Lord of the Rings, and yet he is maybe the single most important person in the legendarium. He is the catalyst for everything that happens in the Silmarillion. He is the reason Galadriel is in Middle-earth at all. He's kind of the reason Aragorn exists in a sort of roundabout way. So who is this guy? We've talked about him before, but he is a Noldoran elf. He's born in Valinor, in Paradise. He is the son of Finwë and Miriel Therindae. We'll talk about that in a second. He's born in this place where no one is supposed to die, like, even more than usual with the elves. But his mother does die after having him, and not in childbirth. She does not die in childbirth, but it seems like 1 to a few years afterwards, she goes out to the Garden of Lorien to rest, and then her spirit just leaves her body and goes to the halls of Mandos. And, like, the reason given to us in the text is that she gave too much energy to her son. And then once her spirit left her body, she was too stubborn to be reincarnated or healed in any way. And actually, like, there's probably a whole episode about her, because this is, like, a really interesting postpartum depression analogy, even though I don't think that was the point of that I don't think that was intentional on Tolkien's part. But Fëanor, his mom, like, willingly leaves him. So the loss of one's mother at such a young age and in such a fashion is pretty understandably scarring. We don't really dig into it, though. Like, in true Tolkienian fashion, the way Fëanor shows his grief is by clinging to the TH sound in his speech while everyone around him starts using S instead, because his mother chose to keep that sound in her speech before she died, which is why everyone else calls her Miriel Serindae, and he calls her Therindae. And this is, like, a huge, it's the shibboleth of Fëanor. So Fëanor's father gets to be so sad about all this that the Valar actually allow him to remarry, and this is, like, a huge, weird thing. Probably shouldn't have happened. And Finwë marries his friend's daughter. We don't have time to go into all that. It's probably fine. It isn't clear. Again, there's, like, a lot of sort of, we just don't have, like, a ton of details about this. But Fëanor, it seems, has to live with his stepmom and half-siblings for at least some amount of time. He has 2 sisters and 2 brothers. I need to speed this up. Fëanor turns into a master craftsman, which is actually something he gets from his mom. He studies with Aule, the great smith, the Vala, and he pours all of his time and energy into capturing the light of the 2 trees, which, aside from the stars at this point, in the history of the world, are the only source of light, in the entire world. So he takes the light, he puts it into the 3 jewels called the Silmarils. He also marries the daughter of a Noldoran craftsman. Her name is Nerdanel, and he has 7 sons with her, and that's a lot for elves. And she is the only person who can restrain Fëanor's more troubling impulses. But trouble is brewing nevertheless, because Morgoth, the devil himself, who is on parole in Valinor at this point in time, he covets the Silmarils. He's sowing division, whispering in everyone's ears. It really pays off. Fëanor believes that his half-brother Fingolfin wants to become head of the family and rule over their people, ends up holding a sword to Fingolfin's throat. This is a huge no-no. Fëanor gets exiled from the elven city in Valinor for this, and his dad and his sons go with him, but his wife doesn't. Oh my God. And when Morgoth finally makes his move, and with a little help from a giant spider, destroys the 2 trees, kills Finwë, steals the Silmarils, flees back to Middle-earth, Fëanor decides that paradise is bullshit and vows to pursue Morgoth and whoever else may end up holding the Silmarils, regardless of the consequences. A fair number of the Noldor follow Fëanor, including his half-brother, Fingolfin, various nephews. They kill a bunch of other elves, steal their ships to sail to Middle-earth in batches, but Fëanor burns the ships when he and his sons and their little part of the Noldor get to Middle-earth, so that the rest of his blood relatives can't come over. Fëanor then, kind of immediately marches on Morgoth's fortress, dies in combat with Morgoth. And then the rest of the Silmarillion happens, and it's a lot. We will talk more about the shithead sons in a minute, but for now, how do each of you connect or not with Fëanor's story here?
That's an interesting question, actually. Jared, do you have a thought on that?
I have always found him a difficult character.
No.
He's a difficult man.
He's a difficult man. And I was on a plane for 9 hours yesterday. So anyway, he's so he's such a great character because he's made to generate plot lines this arrogance and all that. I will say, I think it's so interesting how much of what drives him doesn't quite make sense if you are an immortal person living in heaven. All of the weird succession drama that is kind of happening, where they're why would you be like that? He apparently has come up with the idea of succession all on his own. I don't know. Why is he so concerned about who's in authority and all that?
Yeah. Why do you
along
need
with
to be
everything
king?
else he invented?
Yeah.
Along with everything else he invented family drama, I guess.
Might have done. Yeah. No, these are good points. That is something that I've wondered about too. I mean, when I first, read the Silmarillion, shortly after probably first reading Lord of the Rings, and, I would have been, what was my age? 13, when you're 13, you only know so much. And, that's one of those things I'm wow, this is crazy. But what the sense of it? It was sort of one of those things that, the closest thing I had, and I'm sure Tolkien would be flattered by the comparison, would be thinking about things in mythologies and folktales and things I had read about, dramas and high things like that. And here was another example of it. But it is very specific. And it is one of those things that I think I actually should have gone back and double checked some of the stuff in the Nature of Middle-earth about, elvish relationships and things like that. Because that is admittedly Tolkien well after the fact, doing not necessarily some retconning, but sketching out further details and thoughts. But when you come down to it, this story is one of the primal stories. It's there in the Lost Tales. It's something that was key from the get-go. Fëanor not living was key to the get-go. He was very much a prime mover who wasn't going to see out what happened, and he paid the price. It was sort of like a this is not an exact comparison by any means, but in the same way that, Moses could see into the promised land, but he wasn't going to get there. In this case, Fëanor could see where things are going to go. And at the end, at least in the published Silmarillion, he suddenly realizes, oh man, I have screwed up big time. We all have, and we're not gonna, oh boy, and all that. And it's almost one of those last things like, keep the curse going, but geez, we're not gonna do things. He sort of knows. And I always thought his departure from Middle-earth was striking too. He's the only time that his spirit was such a literal spirit of fire that it emerges. It's not ghostly. It's more sort of like, this sort of like flame on earth that then disappears over the horizon, which probably led a few of his sons into people go like, gee, what the heck just happened? Although it seems to have fit with him. I guess to sort of bring it back more to sort of what Oriana was laying out and sort of things like that, identifying with him, reacting to him, I can't say I felt that. It was more sort of somebody who seemed, you could argue that it was somebody so driven by what they want to make above all else and valuing it above all else that, in a weird way, sort of after echoes of what is the ring to Sauron, the thing that he's created. This idea that you put too much into your creations and you love your creations better than you love almost yourself, certainly other people, it sounds like. When he leaves an exile and Finwë joins him to the north of Valmar, well away in Valinor, the idea is to keep all this special stuff with him. He's hoarding the stuff, the Silmarils above all else, but everything else too. And all of it, except for the Silmarils, get devoured by Ungoliant anyway, which is, the unkindest cut. So he has none of it. He literally has nothing left, even beyond the people he's lost. For all that he, of course, clearly, the news of Finwë's death absolutely breaks him, understandably, but it is kind of the thing. It's sort of like, it's come to this type stuff. And he realizes at that point he's now literally lost both his parents, and which is also perhaps very rare for an elf, at least in that particular point in time. Of course, it wouldn't become rare soon afterwards. Whole family lines are wiped out. And we have that. So.
Can you imagine being the only elf of your generation with a dead mom?
I think that actually, that tells us everything that, the die was cast as soon as Miriel decided, no, I do not want to be reincarnate. I just refuse. Knowing, not only is she gone, she's refusing this, and how that could get very easily tangled up. Again, he is the probably only elf in Valinor for whom, the promise has already been broken. And of course, that's going to color everything. And I can see how it would inspire a sort of covetousness and a greed for this thing that I believe is mine. I can't allow it to be taken from me.
There's also something to be said, occurred to me just now, and I forget if this is ever kind of spelled out as such, either in the text or in Tolkien commenting on it. It seems like it might have done, but I'm not sure, and I'll appreciate a reminder if so, is that Fëanor in some respects is the ultimate, what is the word, avatar maybe, incarnation, something like that, of an idea that the Valar in the main, when they said, let's bring the elves over here and all that, is sort of like, hey, we're giving you our wisdom and our knowledge, and you've now leapt ahead and created these marvelous things. But he goes so far in doing that he ends up, the seeds of destruction follow. Would it not have been better, what would a Fëanor have been like if they were all Avari, if they never came to Valinor? Would it have followed that course? Would have, if you fly too close to the sun, to borrow from another mythological thing, would have been better in that regard for, him to have been elsewhere. Again, I don't have a sense that Tolkien necessarily plotted out that way. We don't have an alternate history where, nobody comes to Valinor. That just doesn't exist. They always end up there. There's no alternate track. Fëanor is always going to be born in Valinor. He is always going to go through these things, and he is always going to fall. So it's a combination of, pride goeth, etc. It also occurred to me that, again, using the published Silmarillion as an example, I'd have to go back to the structure of the Lost Tales to get a better sense of it and how that evolved over time into the various versions of the story. But at this point in history, we have somebody who has gone beyond the bounds of creativity, and even Ilúvatar said, no, and that's Aule creating the dwarves. Now, Fëanor doesn't create life, but he's kind of the closest thing to somebody going like, oh, I'm creating this stuff. I mean, what are the Silmarils? What part of living essence are there? Are they, is it some sort of trapped, weirdly living form in a way? It's not. It's very unclear. We just know it's this kind of substance from the trees. The trees are alive. What exactly is this? This gets into, a random speculation. But you get the idea that Fëanor is sort of like, Fëanor has failed a test that Aule accepts, even though it's not framed that way, even though it's not presented that way. And there are two very different beings, for lack of a better term. They're both very proud craftsmen. Aule is kind of the figure for the Noldor as much as anything else. But you could say that Fëanor didn't pick up that lesson from Aule. Sounds like he should have done.
It's telling that what ultimately seals Fëanor's fate is not. It is that he refuses to unlock the light of the trees from the Silmarils after the trees have been destroyed. That's it for him and his whole family, except for his wife, who refuses to go along with any of this, which is, again, really interesting that there's every woman in his life at some point decides she's done with this. His mom does it. His wife does it. Galadriel, his niece, grandniece, I think she's just his niece. But he thinks there's, this story about like how he thinks her hair is so beautiful that he just wants a lock of it to use to create some sort of beautiful jewel. And she's like, no, because she doesn't like his vibe. And I find that really, really interesting that there's just all these women just going, nah, but like a lot of dudes certainly go along with this.
Interesting.
Yes, they do. So, well, building on that thought, that's interesting because I think we can also say that Fëanor can still reach someone like that, depending on the moment, because the idea is he's conveyed as this power of oratory and all that. So, like, Galadriel doesn't go along with the hair thing, but when push comes to shove,
she does leave.
Yeah, she does leave precisely because of his words, like, inflame it up. And I think talking about him as an orator is really interesting, especially these days, and all that.
Fëanor the demagogue.
Yeah. I mean, he's a populist in his own particular way, and lots of that language. I mean, that's language. That's a lot of that language predated Hitler. We'd have to go back and see some of it in terms of the early version of that. But seeing how it plays out over there, it's interesting that it's always Fëanor's language, but the idea is that Tolkien explicitly, and again, thinking more of the publishers of Silmarillion, but tracking its evolution over the course of how he retold the story over the years. The idea that ultimately it came from the circulating lies of Morgoth, this language that was there, and it was looking for the right vessel to say it and put it out there. Which again, interesting resonances right about now, so, shall we say? I mean, this almost leads to a question: does Tolkien not admire Fëanor, but how does he choose to frame him? I don't think he thinks of him as wholly and uniquely evil, but he seems to have a certain regard for the way he talks about him in terms of how he addresses him in a narrative voice. He's certainly not. He's nowhere near a hero, but at the same time, he's not really portrayed entirely as a villain. It's a very interesting balance.
Yeah, I think because a consistent thing in Tolkien is admiration for work that's been done,
craft,
and craft, and like even Sauron gets not complimented exactly, but he's like, no, like Sauron was really good at stuff. It's too bad he used it to try to enslave the world, but he was a master craftsman. So Fëanor, like if you only read Lord of the Rings, you might think Fëanor is actually like pretty awesome because Gandalf is talking about like, the Palantir, like we don't know, maybe Fëanor made them. From that, you're just like, oh my god, he's like a master, like Ilmarinen in the Kalevala. He's like, oh, this fabled smith or whatever. But yeah, in the Silmarillion, he criticizes Fëanor a lot, but there's still this idea that Fëanor is capable of immense beauty, like creating immense beauty, and that is praiseworthy, even if he isn't able to humble himself at any point.
I think it's like, it makes sense for someone kind of as much of a perfection. Well, we call Tolkien sort of a perfection, like someone who, can see the dangerous path of becoming too involved in your craft and so possessive of it that it leads you to some extreme behavior. And behavior that is like ungodly. He probably would not have used a word like ungodly, but just sort of thinking of yourself as achieving creation rather than sub-creation.
And I think your point about how how the close women in his life are sort of like and all that sort of thing, or at least they only go so far. Nerd being a good example. Clearly, she saw something in him, and all that.
Well, that story is framed so it's not in the published Silmarillion, but she's like described as like not homely, but she's like not the fairest of the elves, and she's got like kind of brown hair where most of them have like beautiful lustrous like black hair. Her family has sort of copper glints, redhead once again. Although it's not said that she is, but I can feel it there.
You could just sense it.
Yeah.
But like she is actually like quite a craftsperson herself. And so he's drawn to that. But it's genuinely kind of funny that it's like the first time we hear like a woman of praise not described as like the most beautiful thing that's ever lived. And that does kind of speak well of Fëanor's character in this one case. I guess there's apparently like a lot of fanfic about Nerd and I haven't read any of it.
So much.
Okay, Jared, have you read any of it? What is it like?
No, because I'm not that interested in like.
Is it too straight? Too hetero?
Part of it. That's part of it. This is completely a tangent, but when it comes to fanfic, I don't find fanfic that's set in Valinor interesting because I think a huge part of what makes Valinor so compelling is that you can't quite tie it to reality. Yeah. And having people talk like romantasy speech in Valinor is, and it's not all like that, I'm sure. Yeah. But there's enough of it that's like the tone is wrong. And so I can't get super into it, which is why I have not read fanfic of Fëanor and Nerd. Because I'm too picky, apparently.
It's good to be discerning.
But I know it's out there. Yeah, weirdly, I love fan art of like stuff happening in Valinor, and there's a ton of fan art of her out there, which is amazing. It's just the fic where it's like the tone, the written word is not working for me. But anyway, yes, people love her.
It's also interesting too that by default, I mean, we've already described someone like Maeglin is the incel of Middle Earth and all that. Fëanor is not an incel, clearly, but it is one of those things, sort of like misogynist, shaped by it. If you have 7 sons, are you just surrounded by dude energy all the time? Is it the type of thing you can't escape? Because he seems to, he seems to be one of those people who equates, being, I am a guy in elf terms, and I am going to be very loud about it. This is apparently not seen to be very elven, or at least how we understand it. It is the discordant note, is somebody who just sort of like, breaks out a bit. You can call it, violating the realms of politesse. You can call it being someone who is an external thinker, if you will, as opposed to keeping it inside. There are different ways of framing this, and I don't know if there's any one way, or if it's even right to try and map too much onto our contemporary understandings of selves. We are talking about a fictional creation over 100 years old, much different standards, much different things. I don't want to push this too far, but it's interesting trying to think of the type of person who it is. Someone who is outwardly successful, but clearly is not satisfied. That might be the best way to sort of frame him, and we kind of think about how we look at it that way. That's sort of reductive, but it's there, and I wonder what we derive from that.
Well, I think it's easy to miss how that the Fëanor story is following his like corruption in a sense. Like he doesn't start out as a bad guy. Most of the story is about the bad stuff that he does. But when it starts out, he's just kind of like some kid whose parents are kind of messed up. And like from there, it gets slowly more and more like, he makes the Silmarils. Everybody's like, this is amazing. And there's no, he doesn't end up at that point. He's not the person who can burn the ships and slaughter the sea elves. So, but because it is so compressed, it's easy to forget, I think, that you're watching his decline and fall, but over the course of a few paragraphs. So his character is in flux for most of his life, I think, until the last section that we're focusing on.
Yeah.
So I don't think he starts out as like a misogynist or some kind of rage monster. He just
kind of a hurt
he gradually
little kid.
turns into one.
Yeah.
Yeah. And even then, like, he must, because one thing that we haven't mentioned, I think, is that it's actually rare for elves to have that many children.
Yeah.
And the fact that Nodonel is clearly like smart and not going to put up with any of his bullshit is like, they must have been in love, like seriously in love for a very long time for this to have happened. So he was a good guy for a bit, And
it's interesting too that his sons all basically follow his lead when push comes to shove. They swear the oath. They're all with it. They all seem to act in concert. They leave mom behind.
Yeah. And there is a version of the story where the last two, Amrod and Amorous, are twins, which is, a rarity that ends up, well, it can't come from their line, but like, twins end up being kind of a thing. But there's a version of the story where it's like the legend of the fate of Amrod, I believe. And he goes on the ships and his mom is like, tells Fëanor, like, one of them, she was trying to get one of them to stay with her and they wouldn't. And she was like, one of them will not set foot on Middle Earth. And so it's like the ships get to Middle Earth, but Amrod doesn't leave the ship. He decides to sleep on the ship. He doesn't want to deal with disembarking, I guess. And then the next morning, Fëanor burns the ships, and he burns that ship first. And it's like kind of
unaware.
Yeah. Like, and yet,
just to be clear,
there's like, I feel, isn't there like a hint that he like sensed that Amrod might have wanted to go back or something? Like,
I'm trying to remember. I know I've read the thing you're talking about, and now I'm spacing on whether
I don't have it with me like right this second, which is a huge character flaw. But
we'll do some double checking.
I can't wait to see how that leads you to defy the will of the Valar.
But there's like that interesting little version of the story that didn't end up in the published Silmarillion, but I like that a lot. Because it's horrible.
I love that version. Yeah.
It's very Greek mythology in a way,
in
terms of like how it plays out. It might have been, maybe that's why I revised it. Maybe thought it was like a little too close to a source type thing, so I wanted to take it a little differently. But we should step back, by the way, for our listeners. So we've been getting into the fact this almost feels like an obituary where someone forgets to mention the big crimes, and boy did Fëanor pull off some big crimes, shall we say. Besides rebelling against the Valar, there is what's called the kinslaying, which is basically a huge driver of all the events in the Silmarillion afterwards. And the short version of what happens is that Fëanor leads a huge chunk of the Noldor to follow him to flee Middle Earth after the trees are destroyed and Morgoth flees to the Silmarils. They go to the Teleri, their elven kin who have a haven on the coast of Eleanor, and they go up and say like, "Hey, we need your ships." And Teleri are like, "No." And Fëanor's like, heck with it, we'll take them." And when that happens, Teleri are like, "Excuse you." Bloodshed, and big bad bloodshed, because the Noldor are already primed for war and the Teleri are not. There are more events that follow after this. There's I could go into the prophecy of Mandos, etc. But the long and short of it is that Fëanor commits beyond a war crime. It is literally a kinslaying. It is something that after it goes out, and he faces nothing for it because he's dead before everything really starts playing out in terms of Silmarillion and its main events. So it's one of those things that I don't want to say it's the turning point for Fëanor's character. He's been seen down, but it feels like it. It's sort of like, there's a before and after. He hadn't gone that far, and then he went that far. And how that plays out is sort of the fact that the shithead sons basically are defending this and the oath to the rest of their days is kind of what drives so much of the Silmarillion in terms of plot motivations, characters, things we've talked about out in the individual episodes. The Baron Luthien episode, it plays out in the Turin episode to a degree. There's so much of this going on. It's sort of like it ends up driving a lot of the story. So it creates the story out of the worst thing is the best way to describe it.
There is like the sons swearing this oath, which is an like they can't break it is kind of the problem. And it's, again, we don't know exactly how kind of old everyone, how long everyone, I'm sure like someone knows. It's in some like wiki or something, and I just
it's in the math and the nature of Middle Earth.
Yeah, and look, I'm starting a documentary. I got a bunch of other shit going on. I'm sorry, but
So you've got your own math to do.
I have my own math.
That's fine.
But it is like, how young were they? Did they fully understand what they were actually swearing? Did they fully understand, like, no, you actually can't break this oath because you swore it is magic. It is like, like
they swore by Eru.
Yeah, like, it's incomprehensible what could even happen to you if you tried to not violently attack someone who was trying to keep a Silmaril from you. And this leads to just the whole tragedy. And like some of the sons seem just kind of flat out evil.
Yeah.
Like Celegorm, Curufin, they do just like a bunch of really, really awful stuff. Juan the Hound of Valinor is Celegorm's dog and follows his master to Middle Earth. And Celegorm is such a shithead that his dog, who is given to him by the god of the hunt, is like, nah, man, I'm out. I'm not doing this anymore. I'm not going to be your guy anymore.
Luthien's so much cooler than you. I'm going with her.
She's so pretty.
Hey, even dogs know. So can't we see the Dodo episode on Middle Earth? A found dog wandering in forest.
But I feel like Maedhros, and I always feel like, a person who says croissant whenever I say it like that.
Yeah, but it hurts to get too into the pronunciation, but it hurts not to. If you're just like Maedhros, then it's like, that hurts.
Right? I don't know. Anyway, he's like he's not a bad guy. He's not like a good guy, but like he gets captured and he gets pinned to, no one can see me doing this, but I'm like raising my hand, and he gets pinned by his like arm to the pinnacle of Thangorodrim, like, and suffers there. Until
his boyfriend rescues
his cousin. They're cousins, Jared.
Everybody's a cousin in the Silmarillion.
A greater love hath no man or elf.
That's legal in England.
But his cousin boyfriend, I guess we're going there, Fingolfin, rescues him. And he does the right thing and passes on the kingship of the Noldor down to Fingolfin. And like, that's something. But then he is just like constant, like every good work that he tries to do is just undone by this oath that he and his brothers swore. And the brothers are always messing stuff up for him. And it seems it is tragic, but also like, Maedhros and Maglor do like kidnap Elrond and Elros. It ends up being okay, but yeah, that's like the least of their crimes.
Yeah. And then the one last thing Maedhros is stated to have done is he commits murder. He murders the guards, at least some of the guards who had kept the Silmarils after the Valar have them back, takes them, goes away with them, and dies in pain and agony, throwing himself into a crevice in the earth, maybe just boiling lava, something like that. Just it's a terrible fate. And it tying back into where the start of the oath, he swears the oath. It's a classic thing. You're following your father, you're all wired up, you all swear the oath. Yeah. And then the first thing that happens is the kinslaying. It's like, oh, you're in? You're all in.
You're in.
And boy, there you go. It's sort of like, is there a little twinge of them going like, would we have sworn this after the kinslaying?
Right.
Would the kinslaying have even happened? Yeah. It's one of those,
I guess it is, just trying to think of like swearing this oath, leaving the home, leaving in theory, what was paradise. But like to them, the world has just ended.
Yeah.
Their grandfather has been murdered, which is not a thing. Like, forget just kind of dying. Being murdered is absolutely not a thing that is supposed to happen in paradise. The trees are gone. The Valar are doing absolutely nothing. They are just sitting around looking at each other. And okay, I've talked myself into taking the oath myself now.
And they also, I think the impression that I get from this is that they kind of don't think about, because the literal like wording of the oath is just like, you know, fight whoever like holds or keeps the Silmaril from us. And at that point, they're kind of thinking just like, well, Morgoth.
Yeah.
They're not thinking this through, and they absolutely should, but that's what makes it a tragedy. But I'm sure in their minds, they're like, the only thing we have to do is hunt down Morgoth and maybe his like horrible servants. Yeah. It doesn't occur to them that somebody else might get their hands on it. And it's like,
keep them.
Which is, I think if I were swearing an unbreakable oath, I would want to see like the terms and conditions first.
But none of us actually read any terms and conditions is the thing.
That's
or maybe
right.
you guys do, but I just scroll past.
I sometimes do. Let's say that. But like, if my dad was like, "We're all going to swear this unbreakable oath," I would definitely be like, "Okay, but let's." I don't know. Think this one through for a minute. Like, and they do. The point is that they're not the kind of people that think this through. So, already we're different. But
Jared's just built different. He wouldn't swear the unbreakable oath.
R.I.P. to Fëanor, but I'm different.
I kind of want that on a shirt.
Get around to a store here. Keeping an eye on the time, there is much more we can talk about. I can see future episodes delving into some of these, some of the sons in particular, which we probably should. They just grist for the mill there. But to wrap it up, I guess my final thoughts are that, Fëanor, one, it's a great name. It's one of Tolkien's best names. It sounds good. It sounds good. The umlaut choice actually really works well. It makes him very distinct as a name. It's striking. It's suggestive. It all feels right, for lack of a better term. He created an incredible character. What's amazing to think about is that he did create this incredible character, and again, not known in the most famous work he does. It's this thing that's sort of like, it speaks to the depths of his interest in what he had created. After all, this is something we rarely talk about much. At any point, he could have said, you know what, never mind, and just never gone back to this, but he never let it go. And as a result, it just this fascinating figure. And the more you learn about it, more sort of like, oh, how do we revisit and relook at things like that through that? And so far, there's been no proper way of portraying him on screen or any sort of adaptation, all that. He sort of is untouchable in that regard. And maybe that's a good thing. Maybe he should always just be that way. So who knows what the future will hold, though.
Yeah. I can do it.
Gandalf literally refers to it as, refers to him as unimaginable. So
Jared, your final thoughts of anything?
Do I have any final thoughts? I wish the sons were more differentiated.
Yeah.
Fair.
Because we get two individuals. We get Maedhros and Maglor. We know what they're like. We know that Celegorm and Curufin are just kind of like jerks.
Yeah.
But then everybody else is just kind of there, and it's like, oh, and in this battle they fell. And like, okay, I feel nothing for this because they're just names. And I think it would have been, I don't think he's the kind of author who would do this, but it might have been interesting to have them be more differentiated and more involved in what's happening. So you're like, oh, let's check in with what Amrod is doing. Oh, well, that sucks, or whatever. Or maybe it's going great. I don't know. Probably not, because he is the son of Fëanor, but, I just wish there was, if they're going to be this important, I want a little more of them, I guess.
Yeah.
Or maybe I don't, because they do kind of suck. So
if you're going to have twins, you need to do something with that, I feel like. So.
Yeah. I will say, though, Maedhros is a fantastic character.
Yeah.
I think he's so interesting because he's not a bad guy, as we talked about, but he's also completely willing to be ruthless when it comes to the oath.
Yeah.
Isn't there a point where he's going to soft pedal something and then his brothers are like, no, you swore.
Yeah, I think there is.
Yes.
Yeah.
I can't remember the incident. I was in London. I couldn't do my homework, but
he had a good reason. So
yeah.
And Oriana, final thoughts?
I be the kind of person who will cling to an outdated mode of speaking because you love the person who spoke that way, but don't be the person who kills your cousins because they won't lend you their ride.
Enjoy what I say, not what I do. Okay, the time has come to look ahead to the next episode. The choice of topic has come around to Jared. Jared, what are we talking about next time? Okay.
Something that'll be very fun for us all, I'm sure. We have touched on this briefly in a prior episode, but I have been wanting to talk about this for a very long time. So, we're going to revisit Pearl, Tolkien's translation of...
Yes.
Yeah, of the poem that is in the same volume as Gawain and the Green Knight, and he translated it. It is bundled in the same volume, I think, as Sir Orfeo.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to read it. It's a very weird little poem, and you can see its influence, at least stylistically, on some of the stuff that he does. So we're going to read it, and it's a kind of grim little poem, but what better thing to read for spring?
It all fits in somehow.
There we go.
And yes, we have done episodes individually on Sir Gawain and Sir Orfeo. So if you want to look those up, by all means, please do. But yeah, this will complete a different kind of epic trilogy, as it were, so, in its own way. So that'll be our discussion for next time. And in the meantime, thank you as always very much for listening. We appreciate it greatly indeed. You can find us megaphonic.fm/By-The-Bywater, along with complete episode guide. And you can always email us at bythebywater@gmail.com. You can find By the Bywater on Blue Sky. You can also find us individually there and many other spots on social media. By all means, please follow, give us thoughts, whatever. And we always encourage you, consider joining the megaphonic.fm Patreon. Doesn't cost that much. You'll be able to join our Discord, see what we're talking about there, and a whole bunch of other subjects that all of us are there talking about. And we'd like to do a special shout out to Chris, our fearless leader at Megaphonic, who has been our host this whole time. He is giving himself a well-deserved sabbatical for a couple of months for his own main podcast production, because he just needs to sort of clear his head a bit. So we're going to be holding up the fort so for Megaphonic stuff in the next couple of months here. And he has always been our background guy to be able to prep up our individual tracks, because we've got to work on editing them, things like this. We could not have asked for a better host. And he hasn't gone away or anything, still around, but giving himself a break from the usual podcast schedule, understandable. So, and given what he's all been doing, so salute to him. Thanks very much to everybody, and we will see you next time. Until then.